Hey, we're live. Took us a couple minutes because I'm old and I'm bad at things.
Because Google likes to change up user interfaces
Yeah,
on a
it's
weekly
like
basis.
it wasn't just it was just a couple months ago that we did one of these, if that, and they changed it again. And I'm like, what the fuck? I screwed it all up. Everybody went to the wrong link. I'm very sorry, but this is now the V'ger Please season 2. Rest in peace. The rip that season 2 of Voyager desperately deserves. My name is Joseph,
I'm Peter.
and we are proud to be coming to you live to a little reflection on the season that was of Star Trek Voyager and how we hated every minute. Well, not every minute, most minutes, 80% of the minutes. We got great ideas from the listeners on some additional season award categories. Peter and I will be doing our best to hand out the gold encrusted shit statues that the show deserves in each one. And we'll be happy to, hopefully, as people filter in and have their own feedback and questions and things they want to add, we'll gladly take that input. The more hateful, the better. So we're looking forward to it. Peter, you've had a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, able to disconnect, reflect. Tell me, here we are, mostly through season 2. What are your thoughts?
It's a long season, man. I'm looking through these notes. There is a lot of ground that we covered, and I wish that traveling on an airplane with a 16-month-old was not pure hell, and I might have had a chance to go through and read my notes, because like I said, we covered a lot of ground. We went a lot of different directions this season.
Yeah, I had the flu, so I was able to sit here and wallow in multiple kinds of suffering, including like reviewing this information so that I could be really prepared with some deep cuts.
Yeah.
Going back, what for us has been several months. I guess that's really what throws me off is that I was thinking back to episodes that we covered, you know, in early spring, which just feels like an eternity ago because I'm looking outside my window right now. And I don't know about how weather is in Columbus, but here in Cincinnati, some real godless communist shit's happening, and there's snow falling, and it's like barely like November or whatever, and I hate it, and it's terrible.
Not even snow falling, it's snow falling and sticking. And
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I was just fucking swimming in a pool in 85-degree weather in beautiful Orlando. So this sucks. How we looking on our chat room?
it looks like we got about 4 people watching right now. So
Cool. Guys, don't forget, it looks like they changed the interface on this. There's a little drop down at the top of the chat window. You got top chat and live chat. I suggest switching over to live chat so we can see stuff going down real time there.
yeah, so let's dig right in, man. The very first thing I think we need to take a look at is our bottom 3 and top 3 episodes of the season. Like you said, they're super long. We had a lot of options. We've obviously got one that's off the table until we handle it a little later. But of what we watched, Peter,
do we want to go through and just do a quick recap of what all the episodes were, or is that going to take too much time?
It'll take too long. It's like 25 of them. Let's go ahead and assume that our dearest and deepest fans, they know. They've internalized that deep wisdom. They're along the ride with us. What are your bottom 3 episodes? Let's start with the worst and then finish with the best.
Okay. I'm gonna put Elogium up there because it was the miserable Kes goes into heat. That was a piece of garbage. Let's see, which one was Twisted?
Twisted was the one where like the space distortion.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
I gotta throw Twisted in. I hated Twisted because it really just felt like it added nothing. It was a bottle episode. The premise was stupid, and it just all felt like a big dry hump to me.
It was the perfect bad Voyager episode. I agree. What's your third?
Man, I know what it is. Let me just check my notes and make sure there was nothing else it could possibly beat. There was some. Damn, man, I hated Prototype.
Yeah, it's like a matter of like, did I hate this enough that it's the one I hated the most?
I hated fucking Dreadnought. Dreadnought is going to get my special mention, I think, for this one. Life Signs was all right. The Tuvok in Charge was a piece of garbage. I think I'm going to have to go and give it to what might be the worst Voyager episode I've seen, and that is going to be Tattoo.
Oh man, I was wondering if that was gonna be your top choice. It's tough to beat the Chakotay backstory episode.
Chakotay.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Chakotay. My bottom three are first the 37s.
Oh God! How did I not put that in there?
We got off to a real ball-shattering start for the season
37s.
With the 37s. It was an incomplete episode. It was two half-baked ideas that tasted terrible together.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they don't ever show you what the civilization of this rando group of humans in the Delta Quadrant looks like. They just tell you about it in a captain's log, while still doing this weird fan fiction shit with Amelia fucking Earhart, who was kidnapped by aliens. It was just perfect.
Hey, but we did get Tackleberry.
We did get Tackleberry with a
service revolver.
Rolled around with his gun. My next worst episode, I also will say Tattoo. That was just a miserable watch. Chakotay's backstory was the least interesting thing that the show had to explore, and then did it in the least interesting way that in many ways stripped away all of his agency about his backstory, and had terrible child acting and weird suggestions of the
genetic tampering
by alien races that formed humanity, that kind of break continuity that we already know about life in the Alpha Quadrant. It was very strange, and I hated it. I think my third worst, I went back and forth on a couple options here. You mentioned a couple that I thought about, Elogium and Twisted. They're really bad, and I agree that they're really bad, and they deserve to be thought of amongst the really bad. But I don't think there was anything quite as just long-term damaging to the show as much as Death Wish.
I figured that was going to be your big one to touch on.
That episode wasn't merely bad. It ruined a key piece of, or I wouldn't say ruined, it degraded a key piece of Trek lore while also being bad. Every other bad episode of the show is like bad in its own like containment unit.
Yeah.
Right next to the engine, of course, right next to the warp core. But that one was one that was bad and also made something that was much better before worse. And so that's my worst episode of the season for that reason. It may not be qualitatively the worst 44 minutes I spent in terms of like pure misery, but it made me angry, unlike most of the other episodes. So
I think why I went with a couple of mine is not only am I viewing it as is this bad Trek, but I'm also looking at, was it a fun episode to watch? And to Death Wish's credit, there was a lot of cool stuff that did go down. And I agree with you that, if it steers the direction you've been hinting, it's going to do some, like you said, long-lasting damage. But, there was cool stuff that went on. There was some neat Q canon that gets fleshed out. And had they left it alone with just that episode, I think we would have been all right. Stuff like Dreadnought, stuff like Twisted, it's just, They're a waste. Tuvok and Charger, was that called Innocence?
Yes.
They were just a waste of life. They brought nothing good to the table, and it was just stupid. And I'm gonna have to put the another candidate here on the weakest shit episode. Speaking of that stupid Super Torpedo.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the weakest shit award. But before we do that, top 3 episodes. Let's reflect on.
It's a hard question. I'm telling you, man, I'm going through these notes. There's a lot of good in this season. Projections is a episode that comes to name. Let me see what else we got in here. Tuition, persistence, of Cold Fire, I think, is one that I'm definitely gonna have to put on here. I think that was great trek top to bottom. I think they invoked some real feelings of horror and dread. I felt like they were playing with real consequences. It was the first strong key into season 2 continuity with itself.
Right.
So that again was the one where Kes, they find the other space elves under Caretaker 2's care, and ultimately Kes microwaves Tuvok's brain. Lots of really good special effects in that one. Resistance was a strong acted and a very Star Trek appropriate story, but
narrow it down, man. Come on.
I'm trying. That's a hard one.
I know you're a homer now. I know that you've gone native to Voyager, and so you're tickling the balls of all these mediocre episodes, trying to.
I don't think they're mediocre, man. Tuvik's certainly provocative. I don't know if I'd say it's the best. I got to go with Death Lock. That was a real heavy episode. It had, perceivable consequences. It faked me out really well, and it, elicited some genuine emotional reactions to Voyager episodes, which is something I never thought I would have said with my own mouth. And for them to tap something like that in season 2, I think is a very strong player.
I can't disagree with your choices in terms of them being unreasonable, but I they are not my choices. My top 3, I didn't have to think about it very much. Number 3 was Projections. Great episode. The Frakes hand of really using camera work to elevate that episode helped it so much. It's also really our first deep dive on the Doctor in terms of a really focused episode for him for season 2. So loved that. Had Barclay in it. Fantastic. My second was Resistance. New Jack Neelix, rocking and rolling. We had a MVP guest star. We had good Janeway. Then we had some real stuff happening with what Voyager was dealing with that went underexplained, but that worked for the episode. Their lack of knowledge played into what was going on. Well constructed and well acted, and a great example of the kind of show Voyager can be when it's hitting on all of its cylinders. But to me, the very best episode of the season was Life Signs, the second Doctor episode with Dr. Pell. That gave me genuine feels. That had real deep moments in it. That did a lot to elevate the Doctor's character even further.
Pulled Vidians out of the trash where Faces left them.
Yes, made the Vidians far more interesting and gave them depth by giving them a sympathetic character. So by far my favorite. So those are my top 3.
I don't think we have any overlap on that. And that's what I'm saying, man. I think Voyager has some realized, accomplishments in season 2. It's both ends of the spectrum in one season, and maybe it's because they've got 26 episodes, but they are all over the map on quality.
I agree they're all over the map. I agree that there's been some good stuff. I think that if you look at the 24 episodes overall, I can point to 8 of them that I thought were good. I can point to 10 of them that were really bad. And then there was 6 or so that are hanging out in the middle somewhere.
At the end of this podcast, I want to go just real quick down the episodes and just see if you and I can come to consensus. If there's a split, we'll leave it off. But I want to see where we're lining up on this.
I agree. But before we do that, we have to go to what my favorite award is, and that's weakest shit. Now, to explain to any of our viewers that didn't watch our season 1 Rest in Peace live stream, this is the weakest shit we saw over the course of the season. That could be a whole episode. That could be a single scene, a single character, whatever we define as the weakest shit. I know what my weakest shit is. Peter, what is yours?
I'm going to give a special shout out before I give you my weakest shit, and that would be non sequitur Harry Kim's behavior, which just bugs the fuck out of me.
Yes.
I cannot forgive it. I mean, you're not in a bullshit timeline. You're in a real timeline. You could have really helped Voyager out, and this dude did nothing.
Yeah, you'll never forgive him for that. You'll never forgive him for that.
Ever. So that's my special shout out. But I think my weakest shit for season 2 award is going to go to the concept that Seska has any clout on Voyager whatsoever out of the Maquis. I love Seska. I've loved her plot line so far, and finding this huge glaring loophole in the show logic that you're going to have these Cardassian murdering terrorists find out that one of their own was like the biggest fuck you spy possible. Not only was she a Cardassian, but she's like Obsidian Order.
Yep.
And for them to even consider saying her name without spitting, let alone sabotaging Voyager to, try to, I don't know, bargain for Kazon forgiveness. It was a real hard pill to swallow, and I don't know if I would say it's as much weak shit as the old college try Voyager gave to the Talaxians in last season, but it really took the wind out of my sails on the Seska thing.
I agree. When you brought up how little sense it made that someone like Jonas, who clearly was a Cardassian murdering terrorist, like specifically decided that would be his vocation, would be like, oh yeah, Seska's still my homie. Couldn't get away from that either, but it isn't my weakest shit of the season.
What's your shout out?
I guess I didn't come up with an honorable mention because I was locked in on what my weakest shit was when I considered this for the season. I'm going to go back to non sequitur, but I'm not going to bring up what you hate about non sequitur. The weakest shit of the season are the Federation security guards who come to arrest Harry Kim in his apartment in San Francisco with phasers and who have been transported into position and somehow, some way, cannot get themselves to arrest him successfully because a cave woman stands in front of them in front of the fucking window. Literally, the scene is they beam in or whatever, and they're like, oh, we're here to help you, Harry. Here's the straitjacket, Harry. We're here to get you. And he bolts out the window, and the cave woman, his girlfriend, just like stands in front of the window, like, no, you can't follow him. And then like, golly gee willikers, we can't get this woman out of the way. We're just grown ass space men with fucking
Marines.
laser guns. Yeah, we're Marines. We're just gonna stamp our feet. We're gonna run after him another way and just do this fruitless foot chase through fucking the Presidio or wherever the fuck the Mission District. That's where he's got his goddamn apartment.
Think about this though. The police state the Federation could have. I mean, you're giving them a hard time for beaming in and not, zapping them. It's unnecessary. If you have to apprehend someone on Earth, I have to imagine there's like a global monitoring grid and you could just transport anybody anywhere against their will or with it.
That's why it's the weakest shit. Like, are you telling me that Starfleet security is so incompetent that they're able to be foiled by random civilians that stand in the way, and then random drunk hobo ex-terrorists that roll in from Paris and punch them in the face. Because that's what happens. Like,
there's so much weak shit in that episode. It's amazing that it did not constitute like top 3 worst for either of us. Thinking back on all the reused stock footage, just all the other bullshit, Paris's friendship not really being fully.
Oh yeah, it goes to show how bad the season was.
How robust the writer room's failures truly are.
Exactly.
It's like a fine wine. You got to pour it in the cup and just let it breathe.
That episode was merely pedestrianly bad. It was not soul-crushingly bad.
Way to browbeat the caveman woman. That was a good one, Jack. That was a good play on words. You get a point. I see Nathan's in on the same thing with it. And then Jess McConnell, weakest shit in the whole goddamn Voyager crew, letting Tuvok get murder fucked. Absolutely. Where the fuck was that? Yes. The Federation going completely 180 on its moral compass and destroying a new life to maybe resurrect 2 dead crew members with some cockamamie science that nobody doubted for a minute. I mean, we've already railed on Tuvix at length, so I don't want to go back down into that, but realistically, that has to be the weakest shit award. Was Voyager's entire handling of the Tuvix situation, from the writer rooms to all the in-character people. It does not fit into Star Trek at all, and I think
to me that transcends weak shit. That's like a total systemic failure type of situation. Whereas when we're talking about like weak shit, what I'm thinking of is, come on, man. Come on. What the fuck? Like,
shenanigans.
That's the best you can do. Like, that's the weak shit. So, next we've got best console explosion. So many options this season.
Yeah. And for those of you who are just tuning in with us, there's well-documented Federation defects where the computer stations where people are working are prone to blowing up because they're filled with, I don't know, helium.
Yeah.
Or some other Hindenburg material, jet fuel from 9/11.
Melts steel beams.
Melts Federation faces.
I'm going to say the number one console explosion has got to be the random and ever so important, but yet never seen and never mentioned prior, a Maquis crewman that gets blasted as at the beginning of Alliances, where we see him get not only killed, but then are treated to a impromptu funeral scene where Chakotay has to talk about how this
another weak shit contender.
This madman apparently loved to just fight people, and that's why he was a Maquis, because he was just a sociopath that started fistfights with everyone.
Not to be confused with Lon Suter, who just started murder knife fights with everyone.
That's my. I mean, a console explosion that actually finished a face. Can't beat that.
This next one, before I give you mine, I don't want to let this joke go, but I think we might come to the same conclusion. Best use of non-intended use of Starfleet equipment. I'm gonna have to go with Space Pipe.
Oh, come on. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame moment. Like the use of engineering department space pipes as a deadly weapon on multiple occasions in this season really gives you an MVP situation. There's just no doubter. That's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Those pipes are going into Voyager Valhalla.
Yeah. I want to roll back to the best console explosion. There's a couple different ones to choose from, but I'm going to have to give my award to the console explosion that did not happen, because I laugh every time I think about it. When Neelix was trapped in the cave with, what are they called? The Trange? The Kazon Tormentor?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about how they threw that grenade at the guy's feet, and he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And then the grenade blew up. And just what if they did just throw a whole fucking computer cabinet in there and just vaporize them?
Hey, the most powerful IEDs in all the Delta Quadrant are Voyager's panels, no doubter.
Well, just Federation in general.
Next up, we have the Hallmark Channel Daytime Soap Opera Award for gratuitous melodrama. I know it's got a sort of recency bias to it.
Mm-hmm. They clearly call that an availability bias in psychology.
But it's really hard to see how Resolutions could possibly be topped in this category. I mean, with the Chakotay malating and their Little House on the Prairie clothes and the googly eyes and hand holding and fake Indian stories, it really had everything. And you can dial things back a bit and maybe try and pick out some pieces here and there that could compete, but that really had it all.
I'm going to give my special nomination to Neelix giving Paris a hug.
What
was that episode?
The one where he's the fake
Bad
trader.
Boy.
Yeah, where he's fake trader. Investigations.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we had Private Dick Neelix.
Space Cat, yeah. I'm going to go the other way on this one, and I'm going to say my gratuitous melodrama moment was in the beginning of Twisted, which was a terrible episode, when Janeway's doing her holo novel, and I come to the realization that somehow I've actually found myself giving a rat's ass about this mother trapped in the attic subplot in her stupid hologram program.
That wasn't Twisted, though.
Wasn't it?
No, that was...
No, that's the one with the super powerful Space Q guy. What was that one called?
Oh, man.
That was a pretty cool episode. That's, where...
Persistence of Vision.
Yeah.
Persistence of Vision. That's what that was.
Very scary, addition to the Lovecraftian nightmare that deep space exploration is. That's the one where she's, in her holo novel, she starts hallucinating and seeing shit from the holo novel going on in the rest of the ship, and they thought it was hologram malfunctions because they put the new projectors in. But the stupid little holo novel thing, I actually started getting into because the little boy was such a righteous bastard in there that I was like, you tell him, little man. So that gets my gratuitous melodrama award in a good way.
I was thinking that if I was going to have a second choice, it would be any scene where Janeway is doing her bodice ripper gothic holo novel. But I mean,
if I'm going to put a negative slant on this, though, like I think the award truly deserves, it's also going to be another contender for the weakest shit award, and that was the ongoing and unasked for Tom Paris Neelix jockeying for Kess's attention. That is the true rest in peace for season 2, is them finally putting a fucking fork in that jealousy love triangle.
I kind of forgave it, I think, in my mind, because the last episode where they dealt with it, they did such a good job. It was that Frakes episode with the freaking dinosaur puppet and all that.
Puppet, baby, yeah.
Yeah, and it turned out super well, and I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, this wrapped up in a way that I didn't expect this to be any good.
They had to use...
Turned out to be real good.
Yeah, they used a D&D Miracle Wish to wish that whole fucking thing. Yeah.
To make that not suck ass. Yep. But hey, you're right, though. Holy shit, Twisted. I mean, that's the whole reason that episode sucked. It basically had every bad C plot line in the show at that point.
Yeah.
Next, the OSHA Medal of Valor. Another Jack suggestion. I forget what episode that guy took the fucking dive from the second level of engineering in that effect shot. But that's, I wish I could remember what episode that happened in, because that's definitely my winner. No doubter.
I want to go with what you said as well, because that will stand out as one of the. I mean, that was a WWF moment. Like, there might as well have been Undertaker and a ladder for the kind of airtime that guy saw before he slammed his back into the ground and died. But as we talk about this, I'm going to say my OSHA Medal of Valor moment was in Deathlock, where the Voyager splits into two, and they know goddamn well there is a dimensional reality portal rift sitting on deck 34 or whatever.
Yep.
And they don't even put like wet floor signs up to like get people to not go over there. If you go down that hallway, you get put into alternate Voyager, where you then get summoning sickness and blackout, and maybe die, maybe be stuck on a ship that's going to be organ rated and left to blow up.
And Cabrith, I'm glad that you and I were on the same page when it came to Cave Woman vs. Starfleet being the weakest shit. That's how I know you're a true fan. You see weak shit and you understand it intrinsically. Worst character of the season. I will tell you who it's not for me. Normally, Chakotay is such a strong pick for this that it's hard to say no to him. But he had enough interesting shit going on in Seska episodes that I spare him this fate on that basis alone. That episode where he goes on the solo mission to snatch back the technology that got stolen from them.
Is that Maneuvers? No, it wasn't Maneuvers.
It was Maneuvers. You are correct. That is Maneuvers. That was so good for him that I forgive his shitty House on the Prairie antics. I forgive him his neck bearding. I even forgive him fucking tattoo and the Jersey space tree people aliens and all that shit, because that was really good. The worst character to me of the season was Janeway.
Ooh, that's a bold pick.
She didn't have every episode she was in wasn't terrible. One of my favorite episodes was she was a key part of and good in, but when I think back to really the parts of the show that I hated the most this season, I think of her, and she's in there, and she was definitely my worst character of the season. Now, and I would say that's the writer's fault and not Kate Mulgrew's fault.
Yes, and let's clarify, and it's come up a few times. I don't think we can really fault any, given the information we've gotten about how strict they were to sticking to scripts, even bad dialogue. I don't blame anybody on Voyager for any bad portrayals, and anything we're laying here is character decisions through the fucking writing room.
I completely agree.
Are we, when we're saying worst character, are we talking main crew, not throwaway space Amish presidents or shit like that?
If throwaway space Amish presidents were so bad to you that they, amongst all your other potential options, represent the worst, then by all means, no restrictions. We play it fast and loose here on Views You Please, Peter. You know that. You know our brand.
I got a split here, man. I'm going to go main cast, and I had B'Elanna jammed down my throat so many different ways as this goofy motherly figure between Prototype and her stupid obsession with this fucking robot that would later come to Skynet the ship. And then the stupid, what was the torpedo one? Death Wish? No, Dreadnought. They just ramrodded her as an idiot over and over again. But I think really the worst character for this season was Tuvok. I think there's still a flailing attempt by the writer's room to capture something interesting about his character. And with the exception of Meld, which is where we got our first taste of Lon Suter, and Tuvok being stupid and resulting in Real Talk Tuvok, who was very enjoyable.
Oh, yes.
You know, he's just the sore thumb of stupid decisions and flat, boring scenes. And even his best attempts to impress us with his Mortal Kombat cosplay left him dull and flat.
His Shang Tsung outfit.
Yeah.
I was proud to put that sound effect in that episode.
It was good.
If you
I
cracked that joke, it was top notch. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he was bad. You could make the case for Harry Kim. He was bad. But something about Janeway being so poorly written this season in particular, just when I was thinking about it, I couldn't get away from it. I think it was the monkey asking the monkey what the electrical storm was really like sealed the deal for me. When I was like, thought about it, like, you know what? It's you, girl. You the worst. Let's see what we got next. Next up, worst alien technology.
How do we want to consider this?
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying like the dumbest shit, or like the worst? Like, oh god, this is a legit thing, and I would not. This is a hell. You know, this Juggalo tech is something I want nothing to do with.
Well, I mean, you know what? Judge it on it, and on the level you see fit to judge. I think the Juggalo tech is not my pick, simply because I think that it was far more interesting.
I would say it's the best fucking tech. I mean, how many different awesome scenarios of applying this thing was I able to jam in the last 4 episodes alone?
I think the worst alien technology was probably the GIMP suit robots. You know, the presentation of them in the show was so amateurish, like local theater prop house level bad, like slapped together with some tin foil and duct tape just before the cameras roll bad. And on top of that, you know, the episode itself was a steaming turd and wrapped up in this whole like motherhood allegory that made, as you pointed out when you talked about B'Elanna, no fucking sense for her character. So the GIMP suit robots take it from me.
I know I keep talking about it, and it's because I've gotten myself all worked up again. I'm going to say the worst alien technology was the Dreadnought, the super vessel,
the super Cardassian missile. Yeah, I mean,
that could kick any Starfleet ship's ass and everything else, and it was a bum fuse on it that let it fall into Maquis hands to go be tucked away to later rain hell in the Delta Quadrant. It was, you know,
viable choice.
The problem is it just boiled down to was too many jump to conclusions, and you know, classic season 2 writing. Was it really an issue in season 1? The writer room ramrod an episode to happen at all costs, common sense be damned, or was that a recent development?
I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like they did that a lot based on what we just watched this past, 6 months. But, when you're talking about that missile, the real life equivalent of that would be like some sort of super nuke, like accidentally like flying into an Al-Qaeda cave, and we forgot to like turn it on
Iron
to
Man.
explode.
An Iron Man suit that was just so. Again, I'll go back to the Frieza analogy. They swipe the world in half with one flick of their wrist, and they're like, "This is unprecedented technology," and its inclusion in this episode was, if it had been like weird alien Delta Quadrant shit, sure, but just Cardassian tech, no way.
Next up, most obvious trap. Man, that's a tough one. I would say the most obvious trap was maneuvers. I'm going to say maneuvers. When they get stolen by the Kazon and go start playing through Seska's game of how to retrieve the technology, they straight up say from the start, "It a trap. We are being trapped. This is a terrible idea." And that's ultimately why Chakotay goes and springs the trap by himself, because they know they're heading into it. And of course leads to Voyager having to go into the trap to save Chakotay and all of that instead. That was probably the most obvious trap.
Every episode this season almost is some sort of obvious trap that Voyager willfully walks into. You know what? And that's another good contender for the weakest shit award, is that Voyager always skates by unscathed, more or less. I mean, maneuvers, resistance, that's the one where we got New Jack Neelix and, you know, the local Gestapo guys have Voyager playing along, and it's just over and over again. I don't think I can answer. I mean, obviously the biggest traps can end up being basics where, you know, they finally do lose the ship.
Yeah.
But
that wasn't as obvious. They fell into the trap, but that one at least played out with a little bit more subtlety as to what the trap actually was, you know, and hitting the self-destruct button until it exploded. Like, there was a little bit more subtlety to that. It was much more a Seska, you know, like triple layer maneuver. Whereas the first time they got into the mess with Seska, it was a little bit more obvious they were getting fucked with.
Yeah.
Worst civilian outfit? That's tough.
I'm going to have to go with Paris and his velvet. Well, let's assume that Neelix is completely off the table. And
no, no. How can you do that?
Because he's wearing that stuff. I have to assume that's his like assigned moral.
It's not a civilian. That's a civilian clothes, bro. Come on.
He is African royalty. How dare you call him? Yeah, the Paris velvet shirt. The Shang Tsung robes were just too good, and the Little House on the Prairie outfits were like legit okay, you know, clothes. I could see people actually wearing that stuff, but his old Kirk throwback Velvet Admiral jumpsuit.
You're missing a perfect example of the worst, and that is Chakotay's drug rug. Chakotay's drug rug after whatever fucking space hoverball, fucking racquetball shit he was doing with B'Elanna in the holodeck, where he's just wearing that fucking poncho that the guy who dealt you weed in college used to wear.
In my mind, he was not actually a racquetball. They were doing a live action role playing Drug Wars from the TI-85 graphing calculator.
There you go. I did that shit in college algebra all the time in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's good headcanon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my worst civilian outfit, but honorable mention to the blue dick apron.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's...
Cannot unsee
that. That screen cap was very instructive.
Yeah.
Biggest end of the episode reset of things going back to normal. Tuvix. Fuck everything else. They murdered a dude, then never talk about it again. They murder a man and it never comes up. How the fuck do you top that?
I don't know if I can. I'm trying to scratch my head here and come up with something. I mean, Death Wish I thought was a real shit end. You know, I thought it would have been cool to actually bring a Q onto the crew for a little bit, but of course they just let him end up killing himself anyways. And
I think Cold Fire probably has kind of a weird, just everything goes back to normal ending too. Because
they have to touch on that stuff later on, though, don't they?
No, they don't. I mean, that's the thing that's fucked up about that episode is they set up all this shit for more of the other caretaker and whatever's up with Cass and all that stuff. And they used Gary Graham as the leader of the space elves that went off with the other caretaker who gave them superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
And that none of it ever gets used ever again. Not a fucking word. And the episode kind of ends with, okay, well, that was a crazy adventure. Kes lost all of her fucking Super Saiyan powers. All right, back to what we were doing. Up.
I'm going to give my biggest end of an episode reset of things going back to normal to resolutions. And that's going to be the Little House on the Prairie episode, because of the unceremonious way that they drum Dr. Pell and the Vidians off into obscurity, never to be heard from again. You took the best romance I think Star Trek has ever seen. You took one of the strongest guest star characters that we've had on Voyager, period. What has now become the best Voyager, or really any of the Star Trek. I mean, the Vidians at this point are full-fledged supervillains. You've left Dr. Pell to basically be hung out to dry and murdered by her Nazi regime government.
Mm-hmm.
And no one says boo about it. You get no reaction from the Doctor. You took such a great thing you built and you just farted on it, let it fall apart off camera. And it was a goddamn shame. And I think really to the detriment of the Voyager universe you built so far. So I would say that little hand wave, everything's cool, doot, 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 and off we go, really hit me between the legs.
Yeah, how good that episode was, and how they barely use it again. It almost would be better if they never did.
Yeah.
So what's your
that might be another character fucking thrown for the weakest shit awards is the Vidians.
Yeah, so many options
all over the map. You finally build a compelling villain, and you just squander it. And why? Because Insurrection came around, and you've got a new alien species that's stretching skin over the face, or no, was Insurrection before or after Voyager?
Insurrection was during.
I don't know, man. It's a bad one.
Jack's bringing up that the biggest reset might be the almost destroyed Voyager at the end of Deathlock being operational without a couple months in space dock for repairs, like the next episode. Like nothing fucking happened. Like the ship is all beat to shit. You got whole decks that look like they're like gone through an apocalypse, and it's like, nah, it's fine. It's fine. Not really mention all the damage they took.
Absolutely A+ comment on that one. And I was thinking about it. You know, there was another one we had in here about something about, most glaring oversight that replicators can fix any problem. Like the episode where Seska has the specialized Kazon frigate like punch a hole in the hull, and then like shock troopers pour out when they steal the transporter technology. You got maneuvers. This hole in Voyager that is the size of a ship, and they never, all the dumb stuff they put there, we had a, someone say, was the Doctor floating in space really that bad of a thing that Voyager did? In a vacuum, no. But when you think about the special effects budget they pissed away on, that could have been them showing, large cargo bay replicators replicating new bulkhead, and try to explain, why is Voyager always in pristine condition? What are they doing that allows them to reset the ship to a point where you can't tell it's been stranded with low resources and everything else? I want to take a pause here. The V'ger Please trauma support group, one of our big show contributors, put a Hitler Reacts video up for Voyager, and I think he just hits the nail on the head 10 times out of 10 times. And, one of the gags he makes in there is, there's no stakes. Everything just seems the same at the end. And just like Jack's saying now, you've got massive damage the ship takes over and over again, including Deathlock, where the ship is like, 11 minutes to midnight in a nuclear war threat. And then, next episode, everything's fine. You don't even get throwaway lines about, man, we've been working around the clock to put the fucking ship back together after it just fell apart. But whatever.
It's like the exact opposite of Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Like Battlestar Galactica was obsessed with that minutia to the point of almost sometimes distracting and detracting from the narrative, whereas Voyager cannot be bothered to give two shits about it most of the time. And Neither approach, I think, is correct. God, we've been at this almost an hour already. Let's move through to best/worst visual effect. I think there was a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best visual effect was absolutely in the Alliances episode.
Oh, don't you take my pick, you motherfucker.
I am. When the Trabe ship does the strafing run on the delegation.
You bastard.
Yeah, I fucking stole that shit out your brain. That's definitely the best. And the worst was the reuse of the bad 37 CG for the ship landing in Basics. The fact that they took that shot and they're like, yeah, no, this seems legit. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and stick with this one for the season finale. This is excellent. That was peak.
All right. Well, you motherfucker. I'm gonna tell you my worst one.
Did I steal both? Did I steal your best and your worst? Okay.
No. The worst one. It's a shame that these all come down to CGI. Just bad '90s cheap CGI. The Space Amish episode where they depressurize the cart or the shuttle base so Paris and Janeway can fly out, and just how video game low budget that looked. It was terrible. The ship flying, the Voyager, the shuttlecraft flying out of Voyager just looked miserable and unforgivable. The best, I would say, if we're going to cut out the strafing run that Trabe gunship had, very deservedly is going to go to Tuvok's brain being microwaved by Cassian.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, that was a great effect. It was a practical makeup effect, too.
That was fucking awesome. It was completely unexpected. It was very gruesome for Star Trek. I mean, that was a throwback to what was it, season 1 or 2 of TNG when they phaser fucking Remick until his head explodes and then the chest burster comes out and they gun that thing down too. And then I also think that there's a hybrid point between also out of that same episode, Cold Fire, just the simple effect of Tuvok and B'Elanna pinned to the ceiling with blood dripping off of them. Also, very visually striking and a neat use of just simple camera effects. But I think there's a hybrid between the best and the worst effect. And that is the Space Muppet Baby.
Okay.
Because it's a fucking Muppet in Star Trek that comes out of an egg, like, not the mama. And it's terrible in that it's a Muppet in Star Trek. But at the same time, you're sitting there like, I should be really pissed off that there's a fucking Muppet Baby. But
it's awesome. It's great.
I think I might either be having an aneurysm or this could be legitimately awesome. And I'm okay with this. And this whole episode's just, the byproduct of Frakes' magic. So, yeah, it is both the best and the worst thing.
I completely agree. It does not belong. It is so expertly crafted. You don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Most boss moment. What was a suggestion? Was most boss moment. I would say that would be Chakotay telling Cullen as he is getting his ass kicked by him in maneuvers that when Seska is done with him, she's going to kill him too. And that whole interrogation scene, you could probably say, is boss moment after boss moment for Chakotay, sticking his giant Indian wang right in Cullen's face about how little shit he gives about whatever fucking nonsense he's gonna pull. But that whispered mid-beating, she's gonna fucking kill you too, warning, was probably my favorite Chakotay moment. I would call it the most boss moment of the season.
That was excellent. I'm gonna say the transporter. I'm sorry, the honorable mention. You already used it for best special effect, but yeah, the Trabe's little setup to actually have a fucking gunship come strafe the Kazon upper leadership meeting. That was a real power play on the Trabe side, so kudos to them. But and it's funny that these are all involving the Kazon. The Kazon are just the space trash that even the Federation can't pass up, dropping the pimp slap on. The episode where what the hell happens? Yeah, where Chakotay gets captured and they're gonna try and do this flyby transport to yank Chakotay out and they can't because he's being shielded or whatever. So instead, Janeway beams the entirety of the leadership of the Kazon Nistrum over to Voyager, where Tuvok and security dudes have guns on all of them. And she says, here's how it's going to be. And by the way, you're all going to be prisoners unless you give me exactly what I want. I think that was the strongest, most empowering moment and just clever, clutch shit I've seen out of her. And really was a good Star Trek captain moment for the series.
I agree. Aside from her original meeting with the Vidians, probably her best individual moment on the show in terms of like doing captain shit.
Yeah.
Definitely would have been a bigger power play if she had made out with herself during Deathlock, as we had pondered she might, but
I'll let you guys know, since this is a live episode, Joe, I think, had to cut probably 5 minutes of our Deathlock thing out for things because
we went down a rabbit hole. We went down a rabbit hole with that.
A nasty, ugly rabbit hole. If you ever see it at a convention, get us drunk and we'll tell you what that was. But
yeah, I guess and people don't know. Our fans may not be aware of how much I edit out, because we have pretty dark senses of humor, Peter and I, and
we're bad people.
We know where kind of the line is with where our target audience is at. We're aware of that.
The line is between people listening to our mouths again, or people saying, you know what, I've had enough of these fucking guys.
Yes, we know where that line is, and so
there's only so far a podcast without commercials to win me over can hold me forever. Yeah,
and we went down some funny, in my opinion, paths on Janeway self-cessed conversation in the Deathlock episode, but ultimately I listened to it and I'm like, this is probably way too much, and I'm going to have to edit it all out, and clearly did.
Yeah.
There's a whole episode where we went on a 10-minute conversation about our strangest Uber rides, and I shared
Did we cut that?
We cut that.
Yeah. You cut out the part about where I out you for being a brony.
Yes, and I cut out a little bit of where you outed yourself as a juggalo. So
I'm a scholar.
Yes, of course you were. Yeah. So yeah, just a little insight for our fans here on when we're doing a little bit of live confessional. There's some deep cuts you don't hear, and you should ask us about them in person. Let's wrap our discussion.
I want to get the two in the guest star and
yeah. Those are two good ones to end on. Best guest star of the season. What's your pick, Peter?
You give me yours first.
You see, I was trying to decide between the two that I was still struggling to decide between. I think I have a bias towards Gary Graham, so it's coloring my perception of him in Cold Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was really good, but actually, I don't think he was the best. I would say that yeah, if I'm being honest, then Resistance is probably going to have the best. It was Joel Grey was the played the grieving father who had kind of lost his mind, and he he really made that whole episode amazing. And I got to say that he was probably the best guest star of the season.
We've got the guy who portrayed Tuvix.
Yeah.
I do think he did a wonderful job mashing up two characters in a fluid yet unpredictable way, and also was able to give a strong enough performance as what could have been a very silly character to the point where it carried outrage. He conveyed a lot in the few lines he got in that last 11 minutes to really just taint an entire crew's morality and where they stand in my books. And then of course Lon Suter, who has quickly become one of my favorite Voyager characters, period. I'd like to throw Q a shout out, but yeah, Death Wish had a overshadowing, and it's certainly not going to winning a Q. Also, Dr. Pell for really bringing some real love. Man, I don't know, that's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, John DeLance was great. The actress that played Dr. Pell was great. The guy who played Lon Suter was good, but as far as like a guest star that made an episode special, that really like took it to the next level, the only person who did that all season, in my opinion, was Joel Grey. I always said Gary Graham again, but Joel Grey in Resistance. He made that episode so much more than it would have been in a lesser actor's hands. And that's why he's got to be my number one.
Fair enough, man.
And then best Frakes moment. I know what mine is. That is definitely the shot in Projections when it's getting into the...
Barclay was another strong guest star. Damn.
Yeah, another good guest star was Barclay. But when the episode's making the turn into space madness, and Barclay's starts trying to convince the Doctor to kill himself, and the shot is framed kind of through the Doctor's the way his arm is positioned, and you see Barclay through that, and they use that kind of weird off-angle shot to start to convey the strangeness of what Barclay is doing. Adds visual elements to the storytelling, adds a second level to it. That was probably the best Frakes moment in the whole season, and as a consequence of all the episodes that he did for the show.
I would like to say Space Muppet Baby for the moment where you see a Space Muppet Baby and are strangely okay with it, but we already used that. I'm going to go with the end resolution of that, where we finally see what that race matures into, which is terrifying raptor people.
Yes.
Lots of teeth in
with 2 sets of teeth.
Badass mask. And let me talk about this real quick, because it's this Frakes thing, right? Last season, Rip, we talked about, it was a live stream, we talked about best time travel episode, right? And I think at the time I said yesterday's Enterprise was a strong contender. Another one I really liked is Time and Again, which I believe is also a Frakes episode. That's the one where they hit Frasier's Reliant class starship over and over again. Remember that?
Yeah, is that Time and Again? I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah,
it's Time and Again, and I'm pretty sure that's a Frakes episode there. He's got this way where he is able to pull these budgets and build stuff that never gets reused anywhere in Star Trek. And, we're talking about something where they're pulling movie footage in for the fucking non sequitur episode. It's pretty impressive. And yeah, that raptor mask looked really cool and really stands as such a strong, stark contrast to the effects we get in other parts of the show, and him to just have something that potent and then throw it away forever is cool. And I'm going to say that's my favorite Frakes thing.
Agreed.
Who's your MVP, Joe?
My MVP?
Your seasonal MVP.
My seasonal MVP is Seska.
You picked the only person it could be.
Yeah. Time and time again, she showed up in episodes and fished the show out of the fucking toilet. Like a good plumber, she was there to provide all manner of entertainment and, more importantly, make even the worst parts of the show better by her proximity.
You mean Chakotay?
I mean, Chakotay, like, makes the least interesting character interesting. She had all this stuff with Jonas and like she was weaving her webs, all of her cheesy hammy ass scenes with Maj Kula,
Paris.
Like Paris, the dialogue they had in the episode where they actually have their dialogue. She was absolutely a worker all season. Every fucking episode she was in was great. Even when she wasn't in it much, her scenes were good.
Absolutely. I can't think of anybody else I can throw to even to try and mention them. She is what put Voyager on the rails this season, I think.
Rarely do you see in Star Trek a villain character that just absolutely has the heroes fucking clocked.
And not even the heroes. I mean, the viewers at home too. I mean, anytime the show can surprise me, it's delightful. And like you said, the stuff at the end of the basics, her hitting, knowing that Janeway is going to jump on the self-destruct and taking that card out of her deck, just felt good to watch happen.
Yeah. I mean, they did her character justice and writing her as an effective spy, an effective psychological warrior. Like, Seska's skill as an Obsidian Order agent is understanding weakness and exploiting it.
And transporting fools into the vacuum of space.
Yeah, and not giving any fucks. And she plays all those cards effectively in all of her appearances, and you never quite know exactly where she stands on things and what level she's willing to go to, and all came together very nicely in all of her appearances. As I imagine you suspect, Peter, she's not a permanent fixture on the show from this point forward.
Yeah.
But I will leave you with a bit of hope that what you think is her last appearance is not.
Well, I can live with that.
So we got that.
As we get ready to close this season out with a quick tally on what was good and what wasn't, I want to revise my weakest shit award.
Okay.
I'm looking at the top of the season, the 37s. The fact that I had to fucking watch the 37s on my birthday. That was the weakest shit. That's not how I wanted to spend my birthday with arguably I don't know if I can even argue it was the worst, but a terrible episode of this season. All right, Joe.
It made it worse by proximity.
Low blows, man. All right, so 37s, I think we both agree that was bad.
Yes, definitely agree that was bad, among the worst of the season.
Initiations, I'm going to say was good.
It was fine.
Are we counting good as fine and fine as good, or no? Check marks or minuses. You're going to go check mark or minus. I say check mark.
Okay, check mark.
Projections, check mark.
Check plus.
Yep. Elogium, garbage.
Yeah, in the trash.
Non sequitur.
In the trash. I mean, it was bad. It was
good for us, but
I don't have to take the trash can out.
Mm-hmm.
It can stay in the trash. Okay. It's not like rancid.
After a while, you kind of like the way it smells. That's a little something in the kitchen.
It does.
Episode 6 was twisted.
It's spoiled meat. Get it out. Yep. Get into the fucking bin outside.
I was listening to the last podcast we did. You started talking about spoiled meat. It gave me flashbacks to the shitheads. I don't know how I didn't think to that lady's obsession with spoiled meat.
Jesus, yeah.
We got some fan hate on that one. Twisted was garbage. Parturition.
That's a check.
Which one's Parturition?
That's the Space Muppet Babies.
Oh yeah, obviously check. Persistence of vision.
I'm gonna give that a in retrospect weakest possible check, because the ending is cool, and but that is like the softest recommendation.
It was a good Space Horseman. Tattoo minus.
Absolutely, that is
Thumbs down.
nuclear waste.
Forget Fallout 76, boys and girls. You can just watch Tattoo.
Cut it out. It's done.
Cold Fire, check plus.
Check.
Maneuvers, I say check.
Check for sure.
Resistance, check.
Check plus, yeah.
Prototype, thumbs down.
Ooh, the meat's gone bad.
Yeah. Alliances, check.
That's check.
Yeah, I really like them fleshing out the case on episode 15's the jury is out, but not really. No, that's one's called Meld, not Child's Play. Meld, my Meld.
Meld's definitely a check.
Yeah, I say check. Dreadnought, minus.
Boo.
Gosh, Death Wish, I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's a minus. That's like a minus, and it came back around and was a minus again. It's my worst of the season.
Yeah, I'm gonna go minus on that too. Life Signs was
check plus. That's the Dr. Pell episode.
Yeah, absolutely check plus. Investigation.
Check. It had some great dialogue scenes. That was Tom Paris doing his thing, being a spy.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that too. I also want a weak as shit award. The fact that fucking Neelix could just access security stuff without it verifying his voice print. That's bad continuity. Star Trek. Boo.
And also, that episode's got to get special awards for the Disney villain level that Jonas pitches himself to.
I'm also gonna give that OSHA Medal of Honor when you've got the fucking plasma inferno to hell right on the main engineering deck.
Have an actual cat fight. He's, like he starts to act like he's a sneak up behind Neelix and kill him with a plasma torch, like spinning his fucking like mustache, doing the creep. The creep.
So his investigation, Death Clock plus. Innocence. Terrible. That I should have shit on more. That it just wasn't worth it. The Thaw.
Minus, but I imagine your Juggalo fondness for it is going to.
I mean, I really like Chuck McGill, but it was not a good episode.
Chuck McGill was fucking awesome in it, and everything else about it was like, but why?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Tuvix was a check.
I'm gonna say nothing.
All right, so that's the first one we've disagreed on.
I'm gonna say nothing at all.
Resolutions minus overall.
Yeah, it was bad.
Sorry, monkey. And then basics part 1. Check.
Yeah, I'll give that a positive.
All right, man. I'm gonna tally these up. We'll throw them up on the let's put it on the main thing since that's a pretty big rundown for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everybody that decided to join us here on a random ass Thursday night for our live stream. Just as a reminder, next week there will be no V'ger Please content. It's Thanksgiving week. We all, of course, got stuff to do, I'm sure. So forgive us as
viewers at home, listeners at home. You have to make one person at Thanksgiving listen to our bullshit and get them to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because you want to ruin Christmas for these people. Especially find the family member you like, but not enough.
That's a perfect gift is to download our podcast, put it on cheap jump drives from Micro Center, and give it to all of your families for Christmas presents.
Would it be considered bad form to give your family AIDS? Give them V'ger Please instead.
Yeah.
And then
or space caretaker syphilis, whatever.
Whatever. We're all about whatever terrible things you want to do.
Big thank you to everybody who submitted questions on this, and we got real strong fan participation. It was a lot of fun answering questions that we didn't write.
Absolutely, and we hope everyone enjoys listening to it after the fact, and we appreciate everyone that came on to participate. And you can expect to hear from us the week after Thanksgiving, as we finally, at long last, review Threshold. Peter and I will figure out a time here in a not too distant future. We'll get together and we'll do that one live in person in the same place, which will be, I think, an interesting
either pretty
treat.
Fun or a terrible mistake. Just like
I think it'll be good.
Itself.
Yeah, you're
it'll be
right.
The spirit of the show.
It'll be good. It'll be good. All right, everybody. Until then, this has been V'ger Please, a hateful reflection on season 2 of Star Trek Voyager. My name is Joseph.
I'm Peter.
And we will see you next time.